Hello everybody, you probably know my name is Gateson, and I am here to present you my Season 4 tier list. Season 4 is, the first patch of Season 4 is more than likely just about to wrap up with Unico's release, so I wanted to give my thoughts on the current patch before it's over. Couple things, I am a Dizzy main. I am a mid-level Dizzy main. My tier list is based on general strength of the characters. It is ordered. So, I think that's all the disclaimers that I need to get out of the way first. So, without further ado, let's get started with the first character. Alright, so we got Zato. Zato is bottom 1. Zato 1 remains true. So, let's talk about what Zato has going for him first. Pose is a pretty good special. He's got great corner pressure. Drunken Shade is solid for reversal. Having a command grab is always appreciated. Once he has you in the corner and you're blocking him, let me see if I can't do some basic Zato. Yeah, something like that. And with a lot of those, especially after Pierce, and that's a lot, he can do mix-ups off of that, and with Eddie, that gives him bigger reward. He's one of the few characters that can convert meterlessly off tap dust, for example, just because of Eddie. So, Zato, generally, with Eddie out, he has very solid neutral, with all of his Eddie specials, and also Invite Hell. He also has very, as I mentioned, strong corner pressure and strong conversions, which are very good traits for a character in this game to have. The big problem with Zato, though, is that he can't keep it. Because without Eddie, Zato is a much worse character. Also, another thing is that even with Eddie, Zato has no reversals. He is completely reliant on system mechanics, and his 5-framer, granted, this is pretty good for a 5-framer. Both of his punch buttons are both pretty long-ranged for their categories. He's also a low 5k. Not really big for defense, but helps. 2k is also pretty big. So he has solid defensive buttons, but not having any reversal even metered is definitely not great. Also, he loses everything if you hit Eddie. He loses most of his damage, loses most of his mix-ups, loses most of his pressure, and loses most of his neutral. Zato without Eddie is... You have Invite Hell. That's pretty good. You know, Invite Hell is very good, don't get me wrong, but... Without Eddie, you're just a very lacking character, and you will be down to Eddie a lot, because not only does hitting Eddie get rid of him, Blue Burst gets rid of Eddie, and also just, as you can check out the meter at the bottom left, just doing attacks with Eddie drains the gauge, which forces Zato to be a lot more conservative about how he's structuring his pressure. So these are the reasons that I think Zato is the worst character in the game right now, but he's still perfectly playable. You'll see a lot of Zato players putting out great results. This is not like Zato isn't far from unplayable. He's a little undertuned and a little too jank right now. And I say right now, as if this hasn't been the case for like a year and a half. Oh shit, more hasn't it been? Anyway, Zato's not thriving. He is bottom 1 right now. All right, next up we have Axel. Axel's strengths are pretty obvious if you look at them. You got 5p. This is a button. You got 2p. Control spaceball. You got Renson. You have JS. And all of these normals allow Axel to play a very strong keep out game. A lot of these normals are also disjointed, very hard to deal with. You're putting a lot of RPS if you want to approach Axel. However, even once you get to Axel, he still has 5k. This is 5-frame 2k. It is, and also low profiles. When people say DLC 2K, even though Axel's not DLC, this is what they're talking about. Spammable, low profile 2K. One of the best buttons in the game. Which definitely helps his close range game a lot. 5K also solid poke. However, there's also another thing with Axel, is that this character just fucking damage. Axel Bomber is the source of most of his damage. If you check out some Axel, I'm fucking up the Bomber loops. Don't worry about it. Doesn't matter. Basically, this character does fucking damage. He's a lot of solid mix-up too. Mostly with auto-piloted fish there. With you can do 50-50s with ambiguous JH landings into JD. He also has a bit of an X factor in the form of one vision. As you can see, I'm an Axel master. Yeah, so generally Axel has... If Axel is going, he's very hard to stop. He's got a lot of great things going. But if you were able to chase Axel down, he has to deal with his only reversal being... What the fuck is... What the fuck is the... What the fuck is Sickle Storm input? Hello? Oh, Sickle Storm! There we go. Don't worry about it. Yeah, Sickle Storm. This is pretty slow as far as reversals go. Very punishable. Which is definitely kind of bad for Axel. And if your opponent manages to guess right on you, you also have pretty low health. That's something I forgot to mention with Zato too. He's kind of low health, which does not help. Axel also a lower health character. If you get in on him, he explodes. So with Axel, you just gotta stay patient. Don't rush in. Take your time. Dash block. Get in his face. Blow him up. Axel just does not... He doesn't quite have it. Very strong character. Doesn't quite have it. Alrighty, next up, Faust. Faust's best strength is pressing 3. Crawl is crazy. This lets you just go under so many things in this game. Which is very good for you. However, so let's talk about Faust. Let's talk about the main attraction. Faust items. Faust items range from pretty good to where is it? Yeah, to fucking crazy. To crazy game plan defining. Mini Faust is one of the best things in the game. Completely just shuts down neutral for you. Also, things like I'm bad at it, but Scarecrow PRC is a very good mix-up tool with 50 meter. He also is one of the most threatening command grabs in the game in the form of Snip Snip Snip. That you get safe jump, and also you can get safe jump JD off of which if they block it, that's free pressure for you, and if they get hit, that's free combo. JD is Faust. His best tool used to be J2K, not anymore. However, it's still just not anymore. He still has a lot of very good other options though. I got 2P, 2K and 5K are pretty good anti-airs. 6P also good anti-air. 2S. Faust has a lot of really good ways to shut down air approaches. Even 6H, if you're feeling really juicy. Do be cautious though. Do be careful. So, if Faust can get some items down, control some space, stop you from jumping, maybe get a command grab or two, he's golden. However, Faust is tall. I don't know if you noticed. Faust is very tall. Also, his aerial hurt box is especially large. So, it can be it's pretty easy to hit him out of the air, especially with this very slow air dash. Also, bone-crushing excitement. The slowest reversal super in the game, it is frame 21, which means you are getting safe jabbed by everything. Faust essentially does not have a reversal. He basically just has to super PRC every time, which is not great. Also, his damage is on the lower end, which is not great. In a game like Strive, being able to do damage is great. Faust is the first low damage character, and he will not be the last. Overall, Faust is a character with just a few inconsistencies and some very jointed buttons, but also has a very strong enforceable game plan. Alrighty. Fourth from the bottom, you probably expected to see this character a little earlier, we have Queen Dizzy. This is my main. I think Dizzy is a lot better than people give her credit for. Let's start with the good stuff. Chestnuts. Let's see that on block, shall we? That's +5. Dizzy has very strong corner pressure because of this. After this, RPS is very much in her favor. If you don't FD, she loops dash car chestnuts forever on your block, which is bad, of course. Also, Ice Floor's pretty good. JD pretty good. B-Fish pretty good. It's got a lot of good zoning tools. 2D is one of the best normals in the game, if you're asking me. This button is insane. Crazy range and reward for only being 12 frames. This button does not get talked about nearly enough. It is insane. She also very good K normals. 5K and 2K both very good long range options for their speed. And overall, Dizzy has a lot going for her. However, let me show you one of the problems here. I'm gonna take away all of Ram's meter. Actually, I'm gonna take away also Dizzy's meter. And then I'm gonna turn off all guard and just take a look at the meter gauges. So why did Ram get more meter than me for my combo? That is the biggest problem with Dizzy. She feeds the opponent meter like it's nobody's fucking business. Ice Floor, that's one of the weird janks of Ice Floor. It gives the opponent a ton of meter. Additionally, Dizzy, her 5-frame mash is 2P, has solid horizontal range, but it also loses to 6P. Actually, a lot about this character is kind of bad against 6P. 5H loses to 6P, Far Slash loses to 6P, my 6P is kind of bad as well. 2D is great though. 2D is the 6P destroyer. Also, if I would try to end a block string with a delayed Michael, you can do that. Additionally, K-Fish is not that great at controlling the ground. What else? This character has just a lot of weird inconsistencies that just stop her from being any higher than this. If her meter gain and her inconsistencies were fixed, I could imagine this character going a lot higher, though. Time will tell if that happens, of course. Overall, Dizzy has a lot of good things going for her, but also a lot of weird inconsistencies, keeping her from the higher echelons. Next up is Bedman. Bedman's got some weird movement. So he can be kind of hard to hit sometimes, especially fitting in his unironically kind of decent zoning with Needle and the error associated with it. Bedman can actually do a pretty solid job of keeping the opponent out. And once he's in, it's not right. All guard. You ever wanted to be plus forever? Bedman asks, what if I could be plus forever? He also has the ever excellent White Wild Assault. Not as good as it was, still really fucking good. So Bedman has a very strong game plan where he tries to keep you out, and then try to maybe hit you with a JS or two, and then start his pressure and mix-ups. So what's the problem? He's slow. This movement that defines him is also really fucking slow. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but Bedman's speed is definitely a weakness, as is his size. Bedman's gonna get clipped by more than other characters will. Oh yeah, also I would be remiss to mention the amount of I would be remiss not to mention the amount of visual clutter this character puts on screen. It can be legitimately hard to see if he tries to put like a tap dust in there, because it's just invisible through, like, especially spin error. It can be very hard to see sometimes in the corner. So what are the problems? Speed is kind of a problem. His ground buttons not being all that, especially his K normals being kind of disappointed. His 5-frame mash being on the slower end in terms of recovery. His reversal super not being amazing. Shades of Elfelt there. The Call 13C is pretty similar to Gigante de Grafeo, in that they're both projectiles that are spheres and that kind of suck. Then that are frame 13. So that's definitely a weakness of Bedman. To lock him down, he kind of struggles. He also has the natural weakness of being a two-step character. Without errors, this character is pretty weak. Overall, once Bedman gets his game plan going, he's very hard to stop. The tricky thing sometimes is getting that game plan going. Overall, Bedman is definitely a solid character, as is every character I've talked about so far. So that covers every character that I have in the C tier. Next up, we are going to be talking about the B tier characters. So, alright, we are out of the C tier. We have now entered the characters who could reasonably get top 8 at a major. Testament, for example, recently got top 8 at Slashback. This character is definitely solid. We got some big-ass normals. Some of them kind of slow. We also have, yeah. If you've seen this hitbox, you know exactly why I'm talking about it. Testament 6P, arguably the best in the game. Not that they are at all strapped for waist to anti-air, with Crow, H Reaper, 6H sometimes even. But 6B is like, this button's crazy. So let's talk about what Testament's game plan is, because it is very important to why they're so good, because this game plan is solid. Testament wants to get you into the corner, make you block a Grave Reaper, and get you stained. Stain pressure requires multi-layered guessing to get out of, which is a trait you'll see that many of the best characters have. The Testament's game plan. So the problems here are that some of these normals are slow. Testament themselves is kind of slow. A lot of their buttons kind of slow. Projectiles kind of slow. Arbiter kind of slow. So you're gonna have to be very careful and pick and choose your battles with Testament, where you want to like try to throw out a projectile or not. You have to be very conscious about your decision making. Another thing with Testament is that they are a two-step character, as mentioned. Crow isn't really a worry to anybody on the ground unless they've already seen the Grave Reaper go out and there's Succubus on screen. So, because of that, Testament does not get any higher than the bottom of B tier. Definitely a solid character, definitely one you always have to look out for. That's scary. Just to show the tier list again, the full list again, next up we are going to be talking about that man himself, Asuka. And this is where I admit I have no fucking clue. I don't know Asuka. It's funny, I had a funny hand there. Yeah, I don't really know how to play Asuka. I just know that I just know that his pressure is very strong, given the right card loadout. His neutral, also a very strong. Cubes, despite everything, I swear they are very solid for zoning. Especially in Tekken 3. Asuka... Asuka can make himself very hard to get in on. And then start his crazy... is a very strong pressure. These... Unfortunately, with Season 4, his zoning is a little weaker. He is incentivized more so to go in. Which... But, you know, again, as I said, his pressure is solid and requires very detailed knowledge about the character to have a chance of getting out of. But it is still tricky. It's still, first of all, very high execution. This Asuka is very high execution at his best, which can be hard sometimes. I don't think character difficulty is really a major factor for most fighting games, Drive especially. But Asuka's pressure is multi-layered. You need to guess right multiple times to get out of it if Asuka has the right cards, and you really need to know what's going on. And being able to see both what you're getting hit with and what cards Asuka has in hand, can be very hard to deal with from a mental perspective. This is one of the main strengths of the character, how he just kind of overloads your brain. So, what's the problem? Well, for one, as I mentioned earlier, he kind of has to go in, because his zoning is a lot worse. And also, if he runs out of mana, he dies very quickly. He has less health than Chip. Yeah, if you kind of hit him once with no mana, he's dead. Which means that Asuka has to be very careful about how many spells he's actually throwing out and when to recover mana, which just creates gaps in his pressure. Asuka, when he's on, he's on. This character can feel unstoppable at times. But at others, he's just kind of a nothing character. And it's just the consistency that kind of weighs him down, but he is definitely not as bad as the Asuka players say he is. Don't listen to those down players. Overall, Asuka is a solid character that just is not quite as consistent as you'd hope, not only due to the RNG elements of his cards, but also due to the sometimes inconsistent nature of his pressure, which is his main selling point. Next up, Millia Rage. You ever wanted to go just, like, really fast? Millia, if you said yes, Millia asks, how fast? This character has some of the fastest run speed, double air dash, things like Capel and Turbo Fall and Bad Moon. So many ways to, like Mirage, so many ways to change her trajectory, make her increase her mobility, make her very hard to hit. And because of that is this character's main strength, is her mobility. However, if you've seen Millia before, you know what the main event is. Not fake mix-ups. But real mix-ups that she converts off of very easily. Sometimes in a higher damage than that. However, Millia is the second lowest health character in this game, not counting Manaless Asuka. She dies very quickly, and her reversal super is Winger, which is beloathed by most Millia players. Additionally, she has a similar problem as Dizzy, where she feeds the opponent a ton of meter. On the whole, Millia is very quick, very hard to hit. This character can feel impossible to fight at times, but at other times you hit her once and she dies. It is, I would hesitate to call it inconsistency, but not always is the RPS risk reward in as much of your favor as you would like. And that is why Millia does not raise above the B tier in my opinion. From one blonde mixed-up woman to another, we now have Bridget. Alright, now you know how to play Bridget. This character hits you a lot. Her turn can feel incredibly long, for one. Not only is Bridget's turn incredibly long and only ends when she runs out of resources, which can take a while, all of that pressure is made up of 50-50s. This character will 50-50 to death. At least she'll try. Although maybe to death is not the best word, because this character's damage is frustratingly low. You have to hit the opponent, like, sometimes twice as much as they have to hit you, because you also have kind of low health, which is not a major problem for Bridget, which is why she's in B tier, not lower, but having to be right more times than the opponent, and so many more times than the opponent, creates a problem. Bridget is, I would maybe call Bridget inconsistent. She's got a lot in common with Millia, but instead of Millia's crazy mobility, she has some pretty good normals. Also a DLC 2K. Kind of low profiles. Yeah, that's Bridget. She's pretty simple. You knock them down, and you make them guess until they are dead, which will take a while. That's kind of the problem with Bridget. I would be remiss to mention though that she has a DP. It's DP. It's gonna be solid. Also, Roger Super, incredible. What a crazy super. This will see tons of views in every match you play as Bridget. Solid damage, pretty fast, extends pressure, it's plus as fuck. Roger Super, very good. I think that's all with Bridget. Alright. Next up, we have the newest character in Strive, which is Venom. I might be wrong about this placement. This character has been out for about a month and a half now. And every day new things are getting discovered. It's very hard to say where Venom will end up. What I do know is that he's got some pretty good zoning. He's got a lot in common with Dizzy in that regard. Pretty good pressure, very good pressure. H Carcass is a lot like Chestnuts in that way, to where it's a great pressure tool, especially after 2D1. That just gives Venom very strong moving pressure if you don't FD. And of course, Venom has ways to make you not want to FD. If you're FDing too much, Venom can just say, yeah, you weren't using that meter, right? And just the Archangel, which, although it does not do the same amount of chip damage it used to, definitely takes a lot of your meter if you FD it. So, Venom sounds like a very strong character, and he is. The problem is that he is one of the lowest damage characters in this game. Again, like Bridget, and sometimes like Millia. His damage is too low, and he does not have the bullshit to make up for it, unfortunately. Still very strong, very solid. I could definitely see this placement changing as more shenanigans get discovered. I will also admit I am not the most knowledgeable about Venom. I haven't really been keeping up with his development. So this placement could be very wrong. I just know that his pressure, Oki, and zoning are all good. Even his mix-ups are pretty good with JD. And JD and... yeah, no, it's JD. With JD, but that comes at the cost of having very low damage, which is definitely a disadvantage in the Strive. Oh, also kind of bad conversions off a lot. Like, tip range far slash, all you're getting is Carcass sometimes. So, yeah, that's it with Venom. And now we are moving on to a bit of a special tier here for one character alone. Because how the fuck do you rate Abba, right? You might see that I'm currently in Jealous Rage right now. In Jealous Rage, Abba is the best character in the game. The numbers, just the numbers. Full combos off high-low mix. A plus on block hit grab. This character is crazy. So, why is she here? Because what if you're not in Jealous Rage? And you have this very slow move speed, this very slow dash, and these very slow buttons that either don't have as much range as you'd like, or are really slow buttons. You do keep the plus and block hit grab. That's nice. You also have a 4-framer, so you're not completely left out to dry if you're in normal mode. But you are still unquestionably the worst character in the game, and that is by design. So, why do I have Abba in her own tier? Couple reasons. So, at higher levels of play, you will rarely see solo Abba. Abba is probably the most common counterpick character right now. Either her or Elphelt are both her and Elphelt are very common counterpick characters. And what you will see is that they will bring out the Abba for specific matchups, and then that's it. Which is part of the equation, and why she is in this tier, is that there's not really a lot to look at in terms of who's been pushing this character the most. The other problem with Abba is that she is very swingy. Far too inconsistent for me to properly rate. If she does not get into Jealous Rage, she probably loses the round, but yeah, she probably wins. Yeah, she gets, if she pops install. Or hits her plus on block hit grab. That she can combo on, and she can combo into off her 4-frame mash. Also Donzai's button. So yeah, overall Abba is impossible to properly rate, which is why I have simply chosen not to. Any character, by the way, any character past this point could probably, given a skilled enough character specialist, any character past this point has a chance of winning a major. That is, we are 11 characters in. There are still almost 20 characters left. Strive is a very well balanced game. That's so. Without further ado, let us get into the A tier. So, bottom of A tier, Baiken. She can properly convert, thank the Lord. just being able to properly convert alone makes this character much better. There's also a 13 frame instant overhead, paired with a low. So Baiken is some of the best high-low mix in the game, also, if you are C. Full combos. Baiken also has pretty solid pressure. I think these are good buttons to keep your turn. 2H can be used as a good approach tool. If you get Escabari on the opponent, it is RPS City, and it is all in your favor. Baiken honestly does not have that many weaknesses right now. Also parry. I forgot to mention parry. This is a very good tool to have. Lets you OS safe jumps. Can be used as a guard cancel. Very good tool overall. So what's wrong with Baiken? Legitimately not much. Other than the fact that this character can kind of struggle to get in sometimes. But then you shoot them with your gun, and suddenly you are winning again. Baiken is also a very high damage character. I guess if Baiken has any problems, it is that she sometimes struggles to approach, because she's not that slow, but she's kind of slow. Her buttons aren't that stubby, but they're kind of stubby. And 2H is kind of punishable. Yeah, Baiken, we are at the point where every character is very fucking solid. And I'm gonna struggle to find I'm gonna struggle to find bad things to say about a lot of these characters at this point. But for Baiken, it's just that she can sometimes struggle to get in on certain matchups. But again, certain matchups. One of those just happens to be my character. So, yeah. Baiken is very strong. Next up, we have the Shoto, Kai Kisuke. You're gonna see, we got... Kai is a very simple character to talk about. At least his strengths. Alright, I have explained all of the important things about why Kai is so good. Very good buttons. These are some top class buttons. Stun Dipper. They don't call it Scum Dipper for nothing. So Shock Stick is very good pressure. Also a surprisingly solid projectile Oki with Charge Stun Edge if I can time it right. That forces them to block until you can make them guess. Which is good, because Kai also has surprisingly high damage. Kai is an incredibly consistent character. You don't get surprises when you play Kai. You know what you're getting yourself into. This could also be seen as his biggest problem. Kai is overwhelmingly... I don't like using this word, but he's pretty honest. Kai does not have a lot of tricks. He mostly just wants to open you up with simple strike throw. Maybe throwing some Scum Dippers. That Scum Dipper is kind of only his... It's kind of his only egregious tool. But even then, it forced him to spend 50 meter to convert, and it is minus a billion if it's blocked without meter. So Kai A is very honest. That's kind of his biggest problem. He just doesn't have the sauce. He doesn't need it, but he doesn't have it. Damage. Alright, we're going from no nonsense to the patron saint of nonsense. Enter Ino. That's just a bit. But also, Ino has a solid projectile, solid Oki tool, multiple dive kicks of various angles, surprisingly high damage, a 9 frame reversal that does surprisingly high damage again. And if you're really feeling it, a command grab. Ino's game plan is simple. Rush you down and fuck you up. She's very good at this. She has a lot of good tools. Stroke. Mad Love as a reset. She, can be surprisingly hard to hit out of the air. And also predictably easy to hit. That's her big problem. Is once she's in, you are eating shit. But she sometimes struggles to get in. Which you'll kind of start to notice is a bit of a trend for this tier. Kai also can sometimes struggle to get in on zoners. Good thing zoners aren't real. In Strive, you have like 3, and like 2 of them are bad. So that's not really a big deal. Ino does suffer a bit worse than most in terms of the struggling to deal with zoning. Overall, though, Ino has many options to mix your shit and kill you, and is not exactly lacking for neutral options either. The problem is that she has low health, low damage off some starters, and overall just can sometimes struggle to approach. And sometimes also can struggle to keep her pressure up. Her main pressure resets are Mad Love, which is reactable, S-Stroke, which requires meter, and delays after 6H, which are RPS and unreliable. Those are the big things with Ino. She's still a very strong, consistent character that can do a lot of shit in this game. Alright, we're sticking with the mixed-up characters. Enter Elphelt Valentine. First off, Elphelt, she's kind of fast. She's got a projectile. Got a cross-up. Got a metered approach tool. But we all know what the main event is. Rekka. The Rekka that forces you to guess right twice. You have to guess right twice, or you're taking a lot of damage, at worst resetting the situation, and then you have to guess right twice again. Elphelt is guess forever. Have fun, jackass. However, she does have some problems. For one, Rekka is not gapless off a lot of starters. Also, I forgot to mention, she has a 4-framer for some reason. We're going into Rekka's not gapless off a lot of starters, except for 5H and 6H. 6H being a very flawed pressure starter on its own, and 2H being 6P'able. Elphelt has can sometimes have a lot of problems starting her pressure, and also once you hit her, she has pretty low health. Does not matter as much that her defense is kind of bad, because her defense is pretty good. Just because having that long range of a 4-framer is a privilege very few other characters have. Elphelt's damage can also sometimes be a little underwhelming, but it's not that big of a deal. Elphelt has a very consistent game plan right now. Also, if we want to talk about some of the mix-ups, Bomb can be used as a cross-up tool that starts combos. I don't really play Elphelt, but this character has a lot of great things going for her. Also, pretty good buttons. Far Slash pretty good, 2S pretty good. This character's pretty good. Oh, also one of the better 6Bs in the game. I would be remiss not to mention that. Yeah, Elphelt is a solid character overall, but just with... Elphelt is a very strong character with a lot of great things going for her, but unfortunately just a few consistencies keeping her from getting any higher than middle of A tier. Next up we have Slayer. I'm going to break down very simply why Slayer is so good. By forgetting the combo, apparently. What the fuck is the 5H Battle loop? Pardon me. I'm not pausing, I'm leaving this in. Oh. right, let's game. Let's go. That was meterless, by the way. And that can happen just off round start. Slayer's main strength is his damage. He does a lot of it. Also, you want to see a lot of damage? Power Girl. Yeah. Mix off Dandy Step is strong as expected. A lot of it can lead into Pile Bunker loops, which are his highest damage combos. Yeah, no, this character kills you if you mess up. Getting counter hit, wouldn't recommend it. He also has a pretty strong mix, especially off knockdown with just mixing up his dashes, of all things. Also, 2H is a war crime button. Low crush is very long range, pretty fast. War crime button. 2S also pretty strong. Vacuums. Of course, Slayer has a command grab as well. +4 on block. No, +3 on block. +4 on block. Slayer has a lot of ways to be plus and enforce Dandy Step. However, he's got a few inconsistencies. For one, his backdash has very few invincibility frames and is never airborne. That is a problem for Slayer. It makes his tools for escaping pressure a lot worse, especially considering the fact he does not have a reversal, even a super reversal anymore. If you pin Slayer down, he's in a lot of trouble. Additionally, this is his only real approach tool, it's K-Mappa. It is minus at a lot of ranges. You can throw that. And that makes it very hard for Slayer to approach risklessly. Also, preempt to 6 speed does the same thing. Allows you to beat K-Mappa. Also, you gotta mention a lot of his Dandy Step tools, which are his Dandy Step is his best mix-up tool. However, a lot of it can just be OS'd. For example, against P-Dandy, there is a string of inputs that you can do that beats everything except for the specifically delayed Pile Bunker, which is very good. That's very good. Overall, Slayer is a very strong character. It's very high damage. A lot of people find him incredibly annoying. But he does have a few things that are kind of letting him down in a lot of key areas. Definitely one of the most tournament-stable, meta-relevant characters. You'll see this character everywhere you look. He just does not have the same weight as some of the higher tier characters. It is still Silly Girl Sunday with Jacko Valentine. First of all, pretty good button. Second of all, pretty good button. Third of all, pretty good button. Jacko's pressure, if she has a minion down and is making you deal with that, that is very strong. If you have 2 minions on you in the corner, that sucks. That is really bad. Especially if you were just sitting there and blocking. Having to deal with multiple minions on top of you in the corner is one of the worst positions you can be in this game. Jacko has strike throw for days. She also has a lot of cross-ups and mix on Oki. Also, combos meterlessly off Tap Dust, another one of those kind of characters. Also, Shuan Evo. I don't really factor results into my tier list, but it would be remiss to mention. I would be remiss not to mention Jacko 1 Evo. In certainly a fashion. Jacko is a strong character, got a lot going for her. Incredible pressure once she gets it started. This character snowballs like few others. But that's just it, she's a snowball character, and you actually need to get the hit, get your servants, because without servants, Jacko is predictably weak. Yeah, that's about the long and the short of it. Jacko is strong, but kind of inconsistent. We've heard the song and dance before. We're going from wife fight back to Mr. Kill Wife. Want to see some damage? Soul Bad Guy has you covered if you want damage. Also, if you're into that, some of the best stagger pressure in the game. +3 close slash, plus +2 far slash. This character can be very hard to deal with a lot of time. Decent range, 2k, decently fast. 4 frame mash, 5k. Not as good as it used to be, still very good. 2D. The 6p of 2D is as it's called. A low profile neutral skip tool. A low crush neutral skip tool. A neutral skip tool. Still has a lot of specials to help him navigate neutral, is what I'm trying to say here. The infinite pressure reset that is Fafnir, and he has a DP. Soul is a very well-rounded character, except for one thing, and that is that he sometimes struggles to get in on zoners, which is kind of the theme for a lot of this tier, is that they sometimes struggle to get in on characters that outrange them. Soul's no different. However, Soul does have a lot of ways to get in. You just gotta guess a lot. But once you're in, you're making them guess hard. And you're generally more rewarded once you get in than what it takes you to get in. So that's why Soul is up here. Still a very strong character, even if he's not as strong as he used to be. And that is it for the A tier. A lot of characters in this tier who are very strong, have defined strengths, but maybe just like one or two small things keeping them from reaching the higher tiers. Yeah, at this point, that's gone. These characters are very solid. Very few weaknesses, if any at all. And we are going to start that off right with Happy Chaos. Anybody who knows anything about this game knows Happy Chaos. He has a gun. That's about it. Happy Chaos is one of those blessed few characters who can convert wall break off any button. That is his main strength. Also has some crazy pressure that I cannot do. He has some crazy mix that I cannot do, except for the one thing that I can do, which is gunshot after roll. That's unreactable. That is frame 16. That is the main power of his mix-ups. Also, can convert off tap dust. Another one of those. Happy Chaos, also pretty solid zoning and frankly, way too good of buttons for the character that he is. Low profile 2K, long range 2S, decent far slash, pretty good 6P. This character has very good buttons if you just want to play footsies with him, but also can zone you pretty solidly. Chaos has a lot of things going for him. This character is crazy. This character is nuts, dog. However, he does no fucking damage. That's the main thing keeping him from being any higher than the bottom of S tier, is his damage numbers just do not match up to a lot of the other high tier characters. He also has no defensive options, which is something that you'll start to notice a lot more with this tier, actually, is that some of these characters don't have that strong of defensive options. Granted, we are starting to move past the characters with bad defensive options. We left a lot of those in C tier, but you'll see that there are still a few left. Chaos being one of them. This character is not the menace he used to be, but don't get it twisted. He's still very strong, and you should be afraid of him. Let's talk about Ramlethal. You all know Ramlethal. You know, far slash, 5H, JH. So, the big things with Ramlethal, you have some ground buttons. Oh god, do you have some ground buttons? Also Sword Toss, which is just a neutral skip. That if you play your cards right with, gives you a full combo into wall break every time. But her dominance is not limited to just the ground. She also has the holy trinity of air options. IEDJS, Dash Jump JH, and Air Flip. These options all require different counterplay, get bigger reward if you guess wrong. And the air flip is just plus on block. They're all plus on block. And sometimes you can even cancel them. You can even cancel them if you're really feeling spicy. Cancel them into each other. But that's not what you're playing Ram for. Let's be real. With Ram, you want to get into the corner. And if you play your cards right, that loops forever. You can, if the opponent does not pick the correct options, that can loop forever. You force them to block until they are right. And if they are wrong, you have some very high damage counter combos. Ramlethal is a character with a very solid, consistent game plan. Few weaknesses with this character, other than meterless defense. This is her 5-frame mash. It is small. This button sucks. You want to use 2K as your Abari option, which sucks because that's frame 6, and there are a lot of 5-frame gaps in this game that you would really like to be able to use 2K for. Also, this 2D is pathetically short-ranged. Like, y'all seeing this? That's just kind of tragic. Also, Rekka is just not as strong as a pressure tool as it used to be. Still strong, especially Rekka 1, but the RPS is slightly less in Ram's favor than it used to be. Yeah, that's kind of about it with Ram. Also, that Mordo is still crazy. Probably the best reversal in the game. So yeah, that's it with Ram. Pretty not that crazy of a character to talk about. So, funnily enough, well, you can say the next thing about this next character, which is Giovanna. And fuck that, I am not labbing against a white Ram for the rest of this video. Alright, much better. Let's talk about Gio. High damage, very fast. Granted, this is with the meter boost. Gio does get stronger at 100 meter. It becomes one of the tankiest, fastest, highest damage characters in the game at 100 meter. With that, there is also very strong pressure. She can enforce her RPS very well. Chave being plus, she always has a way to threaten a tick throw, which is very good for a character with dashes like this. Gio plus 3, which just wants to be in your face, pressuring you. However, if you can restrict her ground movement, then things become a lot harder for this character, unfortunately. It's a pretty simple character, overall. Just has a very strong game plan she can and will enforce, and you gotta guess. Have fun. She is only not higher by virtue of just kind of being too honest in her pressure. Strike throw is just not preferable in this game. Now, nobody can say Chip has no mix. Rekka, for example, that's mix. Alpha Blade, that's cross-up, that's mix. I don't understand how Tightrope works. I just know that it's mix. Chip mixes you. Chip keeps Chip keeps his turn forever. Chip also has surprisingly solid damage for being a pixie. Also, DP, that's always nice. Chip has just an overwhelming amount of options. That's his deal. He has a lot of options he will hit you with. Here's the important thing about Chip, and this is his weakness. He's very low health. He has the lowest health of any character in the game. This means he dies. Chip dies. It's a meme at this point. Now do it. Now do the combo on anyone other than Chip. This character dies. And this especially means that his DP, sometimes a lot of things are just not worth the risk or reward. Because sometimes you getting hit could have you lose like 70% of your health. And, that goes without saying. That's, bad. Also, self-gallling 5k. Like, Chip has so many tools, but you have to be so careful about how you use them, which means that he can't use them to their maximum effect. Still, he has those tools. The very, very strong character. Very hard to fight. Especially now with Tightrope, giving him more damaging routes and more safe jumps. Everything is safe with this character. It's hilarious. Yeah, that's Chip. And next up, we're gonna have sex with a man featuring Anji Mito. I've now explained why Anji is up here. He has very high damage, a solid game plan, and a strong out game. What more could you ask for? Maybe a little more range on some of his moves. At the same time, not really. Fujin, also, you have a lot of pressure resets with Fujin. The big thing, though, with Anji is this character is never safe to end his turn. Not even Nagiha, which is the safe gapless ender of Fujin, is -7 on block, which is sometimes punishable. Not often, but sometimes. And with Anji, you really got to get into the opponent's head, but if you can do that, this character is unstoppable. Incredibly strong character, very fun as well. Anji is a very rewarding character that you will be able to pick up and have a lot of fun with if your reads are on. He's kind of been high tier. We are kind of in that range of characters who have been high tier since like forever. You got like Ram, Geo, Chip, Anji, and then the next character. They've all kind of been high tier for a long ass time, at least as long as I've been playing the game, but just never top tier. And yeah, that describes Anji. This character is very solid, very solid. So maybe I lied about that never top tier thing. Because Mei was definitely top tier season 2. But even still, Mei, this character is very good. Dolphin RPS, not as much as in your favor as it used to be, still. Still good. Still very, very strong for Mei. This character does fucking damage. Do not, and I repeat, do not get counter hit by Mei. If you do that, you lose. Solid range on her buttons, far slash, 5H, 3K, 2K even. Lot of solidly ranged, good mid-range footsies buttons. The X factor in terms of her damage, and surprisingly strong pressure with Dolphins. So what's the problem? Dolphins are not as good as they used to be, and she's pretty much all honest strike throw. Which, as mentioned earlier, is a bit of a disadvantage for this game. It's not terrible, but it is a bit of a disadvantage for some characters because they can't enforce their game plan as easily as somebody who relies more on true 50-50s. Mei is still very strong, though, don't get me wrong. This character can delete your health bar in a second. Watch out against Mei. Learn your Dolphin RPS. Alrighty, we got one more character before we finally reach the top tiers. Nagoriyuki. I rest my case, Your Honor. Nagoriyuki, depending on his blood level, either has insane pressure or massive buttons. There is no point at the game, even though his strengths differ, where Nago is not absolutely insane. Beyblade, crazy special. Clone Fukyo, free approach. It all just depends on how much blood you want to spend in any given situation. The blood meter is kind of a limiter for Nago. All of his specials cost blood. And given that you are limited in how many free approaches you get, Clone Fukyo is very expensive blood-wise. Costs about a bar and a half. Nago has everything he could ever want, but watch out. He's great stagger pressure, more strike throw. He's not really disadvantaged by it though, because of how enforceable his strike throw is, and how many 50-50s he can create with it. Nago is a very strong character. Just be careful. Also, he's kind of slow. At high blood, he very much struggles to approach. And at low blood, his buttons are kind of small. His H buttons, especially, kind of small. Also, he has the unique weakness of not being able to special cancel his H buttons. That is not that much of a weakness, given that they guard crush and are massive. Still something that kind of weakens his pressure. He just has fewer options. Overall, Nago is very strong. Bit of an inconsistent tournament character, for one. Also, Blood Rage Pop means you lose the round. So, this character, if you make mistakes, has a lot of loose cons. But also, if you're blocking this character in the corner, there are a few things scarier in this game. Alright, congratulations. You made it through an hour of me talking. And your reward is me fucking finally getting to the top tiers, the top 5 of this patch. These characters have a couple things in common. They all have very, very strong offense. Many of them have very strong defense as well. And a lot of them have very large neutral buttons and ways of dominating neutral. Without further ado, let's get started with the first character of the top tiers, who is Sin Kisuke. Let's start with the obvious strengths. These are some big-ass buttons. That is a neutral skip. That is an overhead. That is a DP. That is a command dash. That is plus on block. That is safe on block. That is also safe on block. That gives combos. The follow-up to Hawkbaker, the DP, gives combos on hits. Sin is a pretty simple character in the grand scheme of things. He wants to get in your face and make you block his funny mix-ups. Those are both 21 frame options. That is unfuzzyable. You have to hold that. 6K is an especially cracked normal. It is a +3 on block low crush. Allows him to keep his turn in a lot of situations where most other characters couldn't. He's very strong strike throw pressure. Ways of converting off of a lot. He also has very high damage. Sin doesn't really have any weaknesses right now. Other than arguably slow recovery on some of his buttons, and the sometimes exploitable nature of his neutral if he wants to approach. But also, like, hardly. Sin is very strong, and he has been since he got buffed back in Season 3. I wouldn't... This character is perfectly fine, and probably will be for a long time, unless something dramatically changes about the system. The man who just can never seem to leave the top tiers, Leo Whitefang. Let's start with the big thing. DP, that's a good button. That's a good button. Leads into that. That's a good button. That's a good button. That's a good pressure ender. That gives you back turn and a safe on block. Speaking of back turn, remember Slayer? +5 on block overhead that you can get off a throw. Or, if you're really feeling it, 5k. That's safe. That is safe. You get back turn every time, and you can mash parry. He can't block and back turn. Who cares? You have parry. He gets crazy high-low mix in back turn. Pretty solid damage as well. Overall, very hard character to stop once he gets going. He also has a flash kick. Very powerful. Very, very powerful, that flash kick. Has the longest range of any DP in the game, is still frame 9. Leo does have the weakness of his air buttons not being the best. But who cares? You still have incredible ground buttons. Very good ways of playing neutral on the ground. And your pressure and mix is insane. Leo is a very good character, has always been top tier. If this character ever becomes worse than like top 6, I think the universe has gone wrong. So yeah, that is Leo. Very consistent, very strong, always has been, always will be. We have entered the realm of the characters who are top 1 contenders in this patch. There are 3 of them: Potemkin, Gold Lewis, and Johnny. We'll start with who I think is the worst of the bunch. Not that he's bad at all. Potemkin. You see that? That's stupid. See the fact that I can't do car busters? You know what? That's stupid. That's stupid, huh? Yeah, if you ever see that, that is unburstable. 200 damage off of a round start distance command grab. Also, +4 close slash. Massive buttons. A lot of massive buttons. Great pressure with 6k giving free RPS. Also, a lot of very strong neutral tools, as I mentioned earlier. Especially things like Hammerfall Break. Also, the Potemkin with 50 meter is the best character in the game, no question. With 50 meter, so much unlocks for this character. If Potemkin gets 50 meter and you block a close slash and you're below like half health, the round is probably over. Either the round is over, or you were the luckiest son of a bitch on the planet, or you're just completely in the Potemkin's head. Also, his air buttons are surprisingly good. JH, surprisingly hard to anti-air. JD, impossible to anti-air. Heavenly is, of course, a great super. Check Andrekai as well. This super is crazy. Wins neutral against most of the cast, unless you have Night Raid, Stun Dipper. Actually, kind of just Night Raid or Stroke. If you can't go under it, you kind of just lose neutral to the super. What else is crazy about Potemkin? Oh yeah, this matchup sucks for me specifically. I am fighting every amount of bias that I have to prevent myself from putting Potemkin top 1. But I will recognize this character does have weaknesses. He is slow. His only way of approaching forward quickly is Hammerfall, which is just great to 50-50 with Hammerfall Break. yeah, I don't know. Potemkin is very strong, can do so fucking much right now. His neutral is great, his pressure is great, his defense is pretty solid. Why is Potbuster armored? Yeah, also, Potbuster is one of the best defensive tools in the game for some reason. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. You know Potemkin is silly right now. One of the characters I hope gets shot in the fucking kneecaps the most. He definitely is deserving of this number 3 spot, but no higher, just because of some typical grappler worries. Number 2, Gold Lewis. This character does damage. This character has White Wild Assault. And now, this character has security cancels. Not that I know how they work, but I know he has them. This character does fucking damage. He also has level 3 Skyfish. Also, JD, one of the best buttons. Another great button. 6A4, if you can properly fucking input it. If you're not dogshit like me and can input 6A4 raw, that is one of the best neutral tools in the game. Gold Lewis has incredible neutral. Gold Lewis has the best pressure in the game. Gold Lewis has high health. Gold Lewis has White Wild Assault. There is nothing this character cannot do. The only problem is that his defense is slightly inconsistent, but he also has 2P, which is one of the best 5-frame matches in the game. Also anti-airs for some fucking reason. This character is cracked. This character has been cracked. This character will continue to be cracked. This character has been called an easy mode character before. I don't know that I quite agree with that. But still. This character is incredible. Has always been, will always be. And now the moment you've been waiting for. Top 1. Johnny. 15 frame dash. Let's see how long it takes Johnny to cross full screen. 45 frames. It takes 45 frames for Johnny to go full screen. Also, forward slash, 2S, 5A, 2S, 5H, K-Finder. This character is some of the best neutral in the game. He has incredible pokes, solid 6P2. And once he gets in your face, oh, you're gonna wish you hadn't. Famously obnoxious 50-50s with CK Mistfinder, if I was not bad. Also, this character should not do damage. This character does damage. He can make you block for so long, puts you in multi-layered guessing situations. This character is not dissimilar to the 2 characters that I mentioned before, Gold Lewis and Potemkin. The difference is, Johnny is blazing quick. He might have slightly lower damage than those 2, but his pressure is arguably just as good as them. He also just has faster neutral tools. I think Johnny's top 1. I think there is an argument to be made for both Gold Lewis and Potemkin. I still think it's these 2. I still think these 2 are worse than Johnny. This character is a corn dog. I want him shot. Just to go back to the final tier list, here it is. If you're seeing this video, you probably have my Discord. Just shoot me questions there, or put them in the YouTube comments. If for some reason this video reached beyond its intended audience, I will answer any questions, because I don't know how well I actually explain things. It's all improv. I made the tier list in advance, but everything I'm saying is just off the cuff. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.